Do you like casting creatures? Do you like drawing lots of cards? Guess what? This might be the commander deck for you. Let's take a look. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to my channel. I am Roxora, and here we talk about all things Magic the Gathering. Today we're going to be doing another commander deck where I take a look at a list that someone has sent me, and we're going to examine the commander, the card choices, and the strategy overall. Also, at the end, I'm going to give it a rating out of 10. Our submission today comes from friend of the channel, Martian Manhunter, and let's take a look at the commander. And it is none other than Chulane, Teller of Tales. Let's go ahead and take a look at the commander itself. It is 2 green, white, and blue, so Bant colors, for a 2/4 legendary creature, human druid. It has vigilance, which doesn't come up that often, but it says whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. So you kind of get the growth spiral effect every time you cast a creature. It also has an activated ability for 3, and you tap it to return target creature you control to its owner's hand. So if you look at the card just in a vacuum, the card wants you to cast lots of creature spells. Not tough, and it can help you rebuy those creatures or even save some of your creatures with its activated abilities. So let's take a look at the list itself. So here we have the list. It is let's take a look. It is about $900, so not budget, but I have noticed there are some cards in here that are not included, or some cards that I've noticed that are not made out of budget, and so I'll make those things noted when I see them. There wasn't too much of that, but right. So we have basically a mid-range deck with a control element, or sorry, not a control element, a combo element. Excuse me. The combo element is Allurin. This is an Allurin deck. Allurin, as you can see, was a legacy card. Even a vintage played card, I think, where it says any player may play creature cards with casting cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant and without paying its casting cost. So already there, the text of making your 3 or less creature spells cost free is already just good in Chulane when you are casting lots of creatures, but can lead to a combo potential with a variety of things. So the main ones being Shrieking Drake, as well as White Mane Lion, and I believe there is another one. Could be wrong. I think those are the main ones. That's all that I'm seeing at the moment. Yes, that seems to be it from here. So those two are the creatures you're trying to find to work with Allurin. All right, so now let's just talk about the general cards in the decks. We've got a bunch of 1-mana ramp creatures. We've got Arbor Elf, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Birds of Paradise, or Boreal Druid, which in my opinion should just be Noble Hierarch, but again, Noble Hierarch I believe was excluded because of financial or budget regions, and that's fine. Caustic Caterpillar, which is a great interaction spell for enchantments and artifacts. Elves, more elves, more elves. You get where this is going. The Shrieking Drake, as I mentioned, and then Soul's Attendant, which I think is the weakest. I think it's there just for life gain, and so if that's the case, this is probably fine. I think Soul Sarah's Ascendant, or not. There's another one, Soul Warden. I think Soul Warden is just whenever a creature, as opposed to this is also whenever another creature. So I think they're the same. Yes, so I think these are the same. I think Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant are exactly the same. So never mind. And then let's take a look at some of the 2-drops here. We've got more ramp with Bloom Tender, some disruption with Collector's Oof, as well as Destiny Spinner being a great card against counter spells, making your creatures uncounterable, as well as your enchantments, by the way, for Allurin. That's nothing to scoff at. That's actually kind of like a cool part of Destiny Spinner. Also being an enchantment that you can tutor up. Pretty good. We've got Drannith Magistrate for decks that rely on, casting stuff from the yard or even casting their commander. Leafkin Druid and Lotus Cobra for even more ramp. Priestess Titania the same. Skoos and White Mainline. White Mainline, as we mentioned, Skoos being, again, the premium graveyard interaction. In the 3-drop slots, we've got a few here that are, just kind of general good cards. There are a lot of these that, I think are fairly common. Champion of Lampholt is not a great card with the overall game plan of the deck, but with Chulane putting lots of creatures into play, it can get very big. And so, even if your other creatures aren't getting big, it's getting big. And also, maybe your other creatures get in for a few points of damage. So it's definitely, not necessarily the most synergistic card with the combo potential. It's not a combo card, but it's overall synergistic with Chulane and the game plan of the deck. So I like seeing that. You've got Eternal Witness to buy back cards, Faeburrow Elder to, again, ramp, lots and lots of ramp. The thing about these ramp creatures, you think about, flooding and having, not wanting to, like, draw too many lands. There's 31 lands here, and so you're able to, get away with running all these mana dorks and some artifact mana. And then, if you ever get, if you are successful in using your elves to ramp to get out, some more artifact ramp and whatnot, and then you get out Chulane, your 1 mana or your 2 mana or 3 mana, cards that give you more mana also just get you more cards. So these cards, Arbor Elf late game, might not seem like a great card, but 1 mana to draw a card with Chulane is. And so that's something to keep in mind when looking at this list. We've got Laboratory Maniac because another one of the ways that this deck can win is just by drawing their deck. With Chulane, you go infinite, with Alurin, plus Shrieking Drake, and so then you get Chulane to draw your deck, put a few lands into play, cast your Laboratory Maniac, and then continue to draw cards and deck yourself, and then win. We've got Prowling Serpapard, which is great because it both can't be countered and makes your creature spells unable to be countered. Reclamation Sage. This is a kind of a no-brainer. It's a creature deck that wants to, have a little bit of disruption. Scoot Swarm is great with Chulane because the more creatures are casting, the more lands you're putting into play. And so this, again, kind of like Champion of Lampholt, doesn't synergize necessarily with the combo part of the game plan, but is just a good card to have out. And producing these 1/1 creatures, a lot of them can be a good buffer for your life total. We've got a copy of Trophy Mage here to get some of the 3 mana artifacts in this deck. The main ones being Oketra's Monument, the only ones being Oketra's Monument and Ronas's Monument. And these are some of your other payoffs for casting lots of creatures. These make 1/1 warriors, and these give something +2/+2 and trample. So you're casting lots of creatures with Chulane, and suddenly Ronas's Monument can make stuff really, really big and can pack a big punch. Wood Elves is standard cards, seen in a lot of green decks. Beast Whisperer is really good if you get it out with Chulane, drawing 2 cards. Seedborne Muse here is not the best. There's not a lot of ways to cast your creatures at instant speed, but I think the reason why it's here is because it wants to cast a lot of stuff on its turn, untap a lot of stuff, and then have interaction. As you see over here, there's a lot of instants over here, and so we want to be able to just cast your creatures on your turn, cast your Scavenging Gooses, cast your Champion of Lampholt, and then during each turn, during the opposing turns, you untap your lands for Seedborne Muse. So I definitely, again, not the best Seedborne Muse deck, but I do think that is a decent. I definitely think that they're thinking about, okay, if I'm playing all these counter spells and I want to play all these creatures, I gotta have a way to do both, and this is one way to do so. I don't know if it's the best way. There could be another way, but I definitely can understand and see the thought there. So I like that. Rampaging Balos, another landfall creature like Scoot Swarm, but packs a much bigger punch. I like seeing this. I kind of wish there were more stuff like this more just kind of general good stuff, as opposed to, you know, one of the criticisms that I'll make about this deck right now is it just seems very one track, where it just wants, you know, one of the more powerful things that it can do is just combo, and I don't see a lot of other powerful things the deck can do. We do have Crater Hoof Behemoth here, so you know, making me eat my words a little bit. But Crater Hoof can be good here as well. Again, making lots of mana, getting lots of creatures, and then slamming a Crater Hoof can just be end games out of nowhere, and that's another powerful play that this tech has. In the sorcery department, we've got Green Sun and Finale of Devastation, both fairly standard and really good for what this deck wants to be doing. It wants to be able to search out, you know, the specific creatures. So, you know, Green Sun cannot get Shrieking Drake, but Finale of Devastation can, if I am correct. Yes. And so, you know, that's pretty good for both of these cards getting to do that, or getting to search out things. You know, Green Sun Zenith getting out, you know, a Arbor Elf early, or later on getting something like an Eternal Witness can be very valuable. And late game, you know, just get 9 mana, and you get a Crater Hoof Behemoth right out of your deck. Bala Get Recovery is a nice one. I like that it's both a land and a potential regrowth effect. Idyllic Tutor here is, again, to search Allurin. For the most part, there's four other enchantments over here, but I think the main thing is for Allurin. Enlightened Tutor is the other card that I would say, you know, should probably be in here, but probably wasn't included because of budget reasons, and that's okay. I think the deck is still good without it. Again, you draw so many cards with Chulane, you should be able to hit Allurin or something to help you win the game. All right, so here are our instants. Let's take a look at these. We've got Angel's Grace. This one kind of confuses me. I don't see this card. I guess like this card could sometimes save you from death. Maybe this is a budget to fairies protection. And if that's the case, that's fine. But yeah, I guess it's fine if that's what you're using it for. It's just like a, you know, save my life, untap and combo kill, maybe. Dispel and Miscast being, you know, counter spells, not the best counter spells, but as you'll see here, we have all of the other ones: Arcane Denial, Counterspell, Dovin's Veto, Negate. So there's not too many other cards that you could put here in the slot for the same purpose or with the same effect. So Dispel is definitely a good one. I don't know about Miscast, but I don't know what I would put in exchange for it. I just don't like the fact that they can pay 3 to get out of it. Yeah, that's just me. Oh, you know what? You could put Test of Talents. I think Test of Talents, you know, even though the effect of, you know, looking through the deck or whatever, you know, you surgical extracting them doesn't matter. I think, you know, maybe that would just be better. I don't know. The one thing I will say is Nature's Claim is good. Path to Exile is great. Obviously, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, a lot of these 1-mana interaction spells, you don't really care about giving them a 3/3, presumably if it is a large or threatening permanent or creature, whatever it is. Both of these only target creatures? Yeah, both of these only target creatures. Creatures. Reclaim here is a card that I definitely like. Again, similar to Bala Get Recovery, but I'm kind of curious as to why this is not just regrowth. This puts it on top of your deck, so unless you're drawing cards with Chulane, which, you know, in a pinch you might not be, you're losing a draw step. You're losing a draw step anyways. So yeah, and regrowth is 1 mana more, so I'm just kind of wondering why it's reclaim and not regrowth. You know, but if you really care about that 1 mana, I guess, you know, this is fine, but I don't really see it that way. All right, we got Swords to Plowshares, Veil of Summer as more interaction. We've got Worldly Tutor, which, you know, it's crazy how we have don't have Enlightened Tutor, but we have Worldly Tutor. I guess they just value the creatures more, which might make sense. You just want to get all of your creatures and start casting them, as opposed to just having a random Allurin in your hand. We've talked about that. I don't think we talked about Delay, but Delay is another good counterspell here. Elidomri's Call. I always forget that this card is an instant. But Eladamri's Call, another Worldly Tutor right to your hand. So love this card in pretty much any green-white based deck, creature deck, excuse me. Kabira Takedown, not the most impressive card, but it is a land, and in a pinch it can remove something. So I can get behind this. Hopefully if you're playing this as a spell, more than often it's taking down stuff. Same thing with Shajiri Shelter. Hopefully, I think this is more of an inclusion that I'm behind rather than takedown. Just because this actually functions to protect your combo pieces or protect Chulane. So I'm good with that. Got Beast Within, classic removal, interaction piece, and we've got Court of Calling. This is kind of a no-brainer. Again, it does everything this deck wants to do. It pays you off for having lots of creatures and helps you tutor for your specific combo pieces. We've got a single copy here of a Submerge, which is if an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may pay without paying its mana cost, but target creature on top of its owner's deck. So this is kind of like a free spell in matchups where your opponent is playing a green deck. So maybe if this is in a deck, against a deck that is producing bigger creatures than you, and is really packing a punch, you can draw this and without spending mana, just send it back. Might be a good include. I know. I think I've seen this card do some work, definitely. All right, so we've got in our artifact slide, we've got the monuments as we've talked about, 2 pieces of artifact ramp. We've got Soul Ring and Arcane Signet and a single copy of Lightning Greaves. I think the reason why there's only 2 copies, I know I was talking about artifact ramp before, I do think I would like a little bit more because, again, so far there's not a lot of ways to really ramp out Chulane besides the elves, which can be interacted with fairly easily. So, maybe, some more signets, might be a good inclusion just to get Chulane going faster more often. But, maybe, Martian Manhunter here playing in a group that maybe doesn't interact with birds as much, for mana dorks. All right, let's take a look at the enchantments here. We've got the Mystic Remora, which again, they like more than Rhystic Study because it is a 1 mana spell. They can just play on turn 1, get a few cards, and ditch it. Sylvan Library kind of just being a good draw 3. Mana Breach here says whenever a player casts a spell, they return a land he or she controls to owner's hand. So here this kind of is both a tax effect for your opponent, as well as can be a beneficial effect for you because you're casting a creature, returning a land to your hand, and then putting it right back with Chulane, so you don't actually have the negative effect. I'm not sure if this could also be a combo piece. I don't think there's anything in here that I saw that combos with it, but theoretically, if there was something that put lands into play, or like creature that returned itself and a land or something, I'm not sure, but I don't think that's what it's here for. I think it's just a tax card that if you get out early and you get Chulane out, you can kind of go off. And then we've got Smothering Tithe here, just the classic tax piece seen in pretty much a lot of these slower white decks. So that's kind of expected. And then we've got the lands. Nothing too noteworthy about the lands. I do think that this land base is pretty good, given again the budget. Sorry, I shouldn't say budget, but they are making the effort to put in Flooded Strand, Polluted Deltas, as well as the there are the Shocklands. We have Breeding Pool, we've got Temple Garden, and we've got do we not have the blue-white one? Do we not have Hollow? Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. Found it. It's like, where's Waldo? Even Marsh Flats, which I think still gets everything. Or no, it doesn't get Breeding Pool. It gets Hallowed Fountain and things like that. So yeah. So I like that, and I like that if you look at these, there's really only Seaside Citadel, and I think that's really it that comes into play tapped. Treva's Runes is kind of an odd one where it's like a crew land where you have to return a land to your hand, but it adds 3. But this way you can kind of tap a land first, return it, or play play the ruins, and so you're not really setting yourself behind. If you really need that many colors, I kind of get this. This would be kind of one of the cards that I would kind of look to get rid of. But besides that, I really like seeing, all of these lands are lands that can come into play untapped more often than not. Even Castle Vantress, Canopy Vista, these lands are likely to come into play untapped or help other lands come into play tapped. So if you play Canopy Vista on turn 1, you can play your Hinterland Harbor untapped on turn 2, and that's really important for this kind of deck that really wants to play their 1 and 2 mana spells on curve immediately, no delay. So definitely it can get behind the mana base. The mana base is the most expensive part of the deck, unfortunately, which that kind of should kind of make sense, especially for commander and with all of the dual lands that are available to us. So that is all of the cards in the deck, I believe. I believe I've talked about everything. Let's talk about the strategy. So again, we're just trying to cast our early spells, ramp up on mana, cast Chulane, cast lots of creatures, maybe cast some interaction if they try to disrupt us. I don't think this deck really cares about damage early or any kind of really combat stuff, as long as you're not being threatened, right? So you don't mind blocking with a creature every once in a while to save some life, or just not blocking and using your Soul's Attendant to regain that life. As long as you are able to play your stuff and continue playing the game, you're fine just letting everybody else do your thing. And then eventually, again, you'll draw into your combo pieces, or you'll get enough stuff on the board to do some broken stuff with Crater of Behemoth or things like that. So I think the deck here looks really good in terms of synergizing with the commander and outlining a game plan. I think I would like to see, if I were making this deck, I definitely would adjust it so that there was more of a backup plan. I think again, if your allure is countered, the deck gets that much weaker. We do still have these Crater Hoof Behemoths and Rampaging Balos. I think I'd really like to see another kind of effect, or like some kind of big powerful spell like Rampaging Balos to kind of help the deck when it is not doing its alluring thing. It doesn't really need it that much, but again, and I'm not saying a ton more. I'm just saying, I do kind of see, one of the things that makes me nervous with this deck, and I think Martian Manhunter has experienced this, where they play other stuff. Maybe there's a Wrath, or maybe the Alluring gets countered, and then they just kind of do nothing, and then another player does a more powerful engine or a more powerful combo, and wins the game. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. But aside from that, very good deck, very fun deck, a very easy deck to play, where you're just casting creatures, you're drawing lots of cards, putting lands into play, and trying to not get your board swept up, let's say, trying to again use your counter spells and such to protect your Chulane as much. Definitely a deck that needs its commander. You really should not be casting Tranith Magistrate on turn 2. You should be waiting until you can cast Chulane and then cast Tranith Magistrate, because this deck definitely needs this commander to make it work well and to get stuff going fast. So what would I give this deck out of 10? I think it's going to be the same as the last, where it's a 7.5, definitely above average for most of the decks that we've seen. Not a 10 out of 10, but definitely a very solid deck. Definitely should feel good about building this and taking this and to a play group. I got another one of those decks, and we see this quite a lot of a deck that can be played in a variety of play groups, where you could just play this in a very competitive game. Put Force of Will in here, all of that stuff, and try and play super competitively, and combo off as soon as you can. But you could also just play this in a a lower powered group, Caster Chulane, draw a couple cards. Some people might not like your tax effects, like Collector Oof, or Drannith Magistrate, but they'll get over it. No, but in all seriousness, do check with your play group. But you know, that is a nice thing as well. If you don't, you know, if you're playing with lower power leveled against lower power level decks, excuse me, then you can, you know, have a good time as well. Still do your deck's thing, but not necessarily feel like you're blowing people out of the water. So I really like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a 7.5 from me. Good job on the deck, Martian Manhunter. I think that's going to do it for the video. If you guys liked the content here, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date on all the videos that I put out. We do this fairly regularly, as well as other content, you know, like Arena and other discussions of Magic content. Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the video, and I'll see you guys next time.